Welcome to Real Talk Colorado. I'm your host, Amber Levy. Today we have a very special guest joining us here in the studio to discuss two very important topics surrounding children and family. Our special guest is none other than Eric Fierce. He is a former NFL coach. He is a current recruiter for Hope Online Learning Center, and he is affectionately known in the community as Coach. Coach is here to not only share his story, but to also give us some insight into the black male and the black family structure. Please welcome Coach.
Glad to be here, Amber.
Okay, Coach, please tell us about yourself.
Okay, I'm a former NFL coach. I got into coaching when I graduated from the University of Virginia, and that's been my passion all my life. I started off coaching at the Citadel, which is a small military school in South Carolina. I was there for 1 year, and then I became the director of strength and conditioning at the University of South Carolina. I stayed there for 5 years. I left the University of South Carolina, went to Washington State, coached there for 3 years. I left the Washington State, went back to my alma mater, the University of Virginia, coached there for 3 years. I left Virginia and coached at the University of Georgia for 8 years. And then I became an assistant strength and conditioning coach for the Miami Dolphins. I was with the Dolphins for a 2-year stint, and then I was in a real bad motorcycle accident, which forced me to retire. After I retired, I went back and I was working at a small Catholic school because I got bored staying at home doing nothing.
Right.
And I did that for 2 years back at Georgia, and then I moved out here to Colorado.
Okay.
And once I moved here, I became bored again.
Okay.
All right, and I started working at one of these learning centers that Hope has, and I started off just doing some part-time PE instruction.
Okay.
Well, within 6 months, I was the director of that learning center, and maybe a month after that, I became an employee of Hope.
Well, that's amazing. But one thing I do want to know is when you decided to be an NFL coach, what principles did you start to apply to your everyday life in order to achieve that goal?
One of the things that that has helped me throughout any career that I have chosen, especially when it was in the NFL, was that I wanted to make sure that I had the work ethic, and the drive and the desire that's needed to be successful in that field. And one of the things, by being an athlete as a young person and going through and just being in a team setting,
Okay.
those are the attributes that you have to have in order to be successful.
So like work ethic, you mean like every day you set a small goal to achieve something, or every day you make sure you wake up and do this one thing, like so you're not dropping the ball.
Yes, you wake up, you have a goal in mind.
Okay.
Okay, and that goal is probably the overall goal of being successful for that day.
Okay.
Doing everything it takes to make sure that you're being successful and making others successful. Within that goal and within that day, there's several little goals that are going to come up, and you always keep challenging yourself.
Okay.
So for me, it's just a part of, that's the way I compete with life and to be successful.
That's awesome. Okay. So let's talk about Hope Online.
Okay.
In your own words, can you describe the founder's mission for Hope Online Learning Center?
Yes. Let's talk about Hope.
Okay.
Hope Learning Academy Co-op. Okay. It is a nonprofit blended online, offline learning model that is delivered in learning centers, classrooms across the state of Colorado. We use qualified teachers and qualified mentors in order to run those learning centers.
Okay.
Hope serves students in grades K through 12, and they meet all of these kids' individual needs.
Okay.
We have small class sizes which are there to help the kids and focus on their needs. And we are a learning center which we have full days, 5 days a week.
Yes. Okay. What is unique about the individual schools?
What's unique and what Heather's mission, and let's talk about the founder and CEO of Hope.
Okay.
Heather O'Mara is one of the most incredible women that I've ever been associated with. She, within the past 11, and actually going on 12 years, has had this passion to make sure that all of our kids have an opportunity to be successful. Okay? We look at some of the at-risk kids. We look at some of the EL kids, and when I say EL kids, English is their second language.
Okay.
So let me just give you a couple of stats on Hope.
Okay.
We have 2,145 students. We have 29 learning centers. We are in 10 school districts. And again, our grade levels, and depending on the learning center, we have K through 12. As far as our English learning language learners, we have 41% of our students are English language learners. We have 63% of our students receive free and reduced lunch. And we have 6% of our students are homeless.
Wow.
If you look at the ethnic backgrounds of these kids, we have 69% Hispanic, 18% white, 8% black, multiple races, 2%, American Indian, 1%, Asian, 1%, and Native Hawaiian is at 1%. So you see, we are very diverse in our culture and what we're trying to do. Because we want to service all kids.
Okay.
I don't even like to look at what the background is. It's all about the kids, no matter what creed, color, race they are. We want to service kids that need the individual, the help that they need to be successful.
And I can just, as a person who has a child that goes to one of the schools, my son goes to the Victory at Hillcrest School. And one thing that I noticed, because I took him out of the school he was in and I put him into Victory at Hillcrest, was that his learning just began to improve, because they focused on him as a learner versus focusing on him as a black statistic, because that's basically how he was being treated. His behavior was always something they spoke of, but it was just him being a child. And when I brought him over to Victory, they encouraged him. They let him be a child, but they taught him how to learn. And I don't know how they dug that out of him, but I thought it was so amazing how they did that. And so, just from your perspective, what makes Hope Online a better choice than your average public school?
What makes Hope a better choice is an array of reasons. One of the reasons is if you have a child that is slow in learning in particular areas, we're able to slow that pace down so they can understand it. And by the same token, for the kid that excels in certain areas, we can go and stay on his pace and accelerate his pace. So, what Hope tries to do using their blended online and offline method is not only are we getting these kids ready for the future because they're utilizing technology, we're also having more stability in moving them forward than ever before. Of course we have our teachers and our mentors who are very qualified and they do a super job, but we also get all of this extra learning utilizing the computers. And when you go to our learning centers, we will have computers set up for every child.
Yes, I can attest.
And they're able to learn how to log on and do those things. So it's not just we're just turning on this one computer. They have to learn the basics of how to use the computer. And we start in the kindergarten. You'd be surprised. They can log on and go to their different subjects all by themselves. And that's going to help us in helping them and learning how to type and doing all of the things which technology requires us to do. The great thing about it also is that our learning centers can really take the time and focus on the individual needs of the student, whether it's in behavior, whether it's in some type of counseling, whether it's in academics, whether it's in athletics, and we have an array of programs. So our school has just the same amenities as our traditional brick and mortar schools or public schools or other charter schools, but I think we move further because we can get our children to maybe have to slow a pace down until they really get a handle on it, and then we can accelerate their rate. And that's have been the big difference that I've seen across all of our learning centers.
Okay, so when we were speaking about mottos, so do you feel like there's been like an evolution in the work versus the actual motto?
Yes, our motto is probably unique and is second to none. You used to have when you and I'm just backing up a decade ago. Where we had traditional public schools, everything was just given to them offline. There were extracurricular activities that required maybe to start the online. Start doing things online. Our school takes it to another era. Because if you look back at the traditional public school, then all of a sudden came these Montessori schools. And the Montessori schools had the pace of making them go with the individual.
Yes.
Well, now Hope Online has the blended model where we utilize the offline teaching as well as the online teaching. And that combination is going to really foster that child to be very successful and to learn at an accelerated rate.
And learning their learning style, which is going to be helpful throughout life.
Yes, correct.
Because once you learn how to understand, you're like unstoppable.
And think about it is, we have, Heather has done a magnificent job of having the learning centers all across Colorado. And see, and the good thing about it is we are community based. So the communities are start having these learning centers. And we're moving, and the community is the one that's driving these learning centers all around. In Aurora, we have 6. In Brighton, we have 3. Broomfield, we have 1. Castle Rock, we have 1. Commerce City, we have 2. Denver, we have 7. Federal House, we have 1. Greeley, we have 1. Lakewood, we have 2. Leadville, 1. Pueblo, 2. And Westminster, 2.
I'm experiencing the benefits of being a single parent and sending my son to this school, and they're immense. It's been so much easier since I moved him over, like just with getting him to school, with his learning, improving, and all of that. So can you explain some of the benefits for a single parent sending their child to these schools?
They're awesome. The benefits that we have for Hope and the benefits that we serve, especially for a large population of single parents, is really second to none. The key ingredient that we offer, and maybe that's why you feel comfortable, because we offer and have a safe environment.
And a very personal touch.
And a very personal touch. And we take pride in making sure that all of our families are safe, feel their kids will be safe and be nurtured in every way that we can possibly. And also, we're going to grow them academically.
Right, and that's the most important thing. And I was very impressed just with my son's leaps and bounds.
You know, and there's a thing. When we was looking at the ethnic backgrounds of hope, you know, and I was looking at, and we're looking at 8% of our African Americans attending these schools. People, we need more. And if you want more for your child, please take a look at Hope and what we have to offer. I'm telling you, it's second to none. If anybody is interested in bringing their child and starting in one of our learning centers, please call our Hope office at 720-402-3000. And we will assist you. And if you don't get any answers, or if you wanted to talk to somebody personable, if you want to call me, just ask for Coach. Everybody knows who I am, and I will be more than happy to help you or put you in touch with the people that can help you. But our learning centers are all across the state, and you're welcome to go by, look at our learning centers, and you can apply right there to have your child enrolled.
Well stated, Coach, and thank you so much. Now, from the recruiter straight to your ears, and from a person who knows personally how great these Hope online schools are, you heard it here. Welcome back to Real Talk Colorado. I'm Amber Levy, and we have the highly revered Eric Fears, aka Coach. And what I want to get into right now is the sensitive topic of the black man missing from his homes and the lives of his children. First, I just want to know, are you a father?
Yes, I am a father, and I am in one of those statistics because I'm divorced from my first marriage, which I have two lovely boys. Okay. One is in college and one is in high school at this current time. Okay.
And so why is this topic something that you wanted to speak about?
The reason I want to talk about this topic is, and especially with our African American community, is that the fathers play an important role in nurturing their children. And the thing that bothers me is that when there is separation, and you know, if we start looking at a lot of stats and what we have collected data over the period of time, there have been, as far as system-wide, and this is back when the Pew, it's called a Pew Research Group, did a research, and they found out that 8% of our households with minor children are headed by a single parent. Now, the thing about it is, a lot of these households are now trending towards the father being the one at the head of the household, as far as for the single parent.
The father is the single parent.
The father is the single parent.
Okay, that's an interesting
statistic. If we look at this, if we looked at it, back in 1960, there were about 300,000 homes in the U.S. that had single fathers running the household with their children. Okay. Today,
I had no idea.
And back in today that number is probably really escalated. But back in 2011, there were 2.6 million fathers that were running, that were raising the kids.
So now I just have to ask, does this statistic, I can understand maybe the child living with the father, but does this mean like the mother is completely absent, or is it just a thing of it's strictly just the father in the child's life?
As opposed to this statistic, it's just saying that the father is really the head, is really running the part, the household. At that same time, now think about this. Now I went from 300,000 in 1960. Okay, of men having the children and running the household.
Right.
There were 1.9 million women running that household.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And now today, or in 2011, they discovered that it's 8.6 million. So you got 2.6
Wow.
versus 8.6.
Wow.
So there's a big variance in between that. Fathers have to understand. Now, the trend has been, the courts system has been awarding females with their children, the primary custody of the child.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's a trend starting to move where they're starting to see that the fathers play an important role.
Right.
And they're starting to let fathers have these kids. You know, the thing that what I'm trying to get through today is I want them both to work. See, you have to, when you go through a divorce and when you don't have, if the adults are so far separated, you're hurting the child.
Right. And that's what I want to do. Let's break it down just a little bit. And let's just talk about when there's an absentee parent. We don't have to say father, because now we're seeing that sometimes it's not just the father.
Right.
But when there's an absentee parent, how does that abandonment affect not only mostly the child? How does it affect the child?
Okay, so when we're looking at the absentee parent, what you're going to lose is mainly from the mom. You're going to lose that nurturement. Okay, the moms have it's something about them because they rear their children that they have this nurture. All right, gene. I want to call it a gene.
Right. Okay.
That they provide for that kid to feel
like an
loved,
unconditional
almost
feeling.
Yes.
Of security.
Right. When you're looking at the male, you're looking at the role model.
Mm-hmm.
The person that's either the head of the household or the person that works along is the other part of the complete picture.
Right.
And these kids tend that are with single parents tend to lose out on one or the other. So what we need to start doing is putting the differences of the adults to the side and working with the children and bringing them close together. So what we want to do, and this is what the courts are starting to do, is give the joint custody, and they're making sure that this is very, very, followed to the T.
Right.
This is very important.
Okay. This is just such a complicated subject because, like, from your point of view, you're talking about when there's like two parents involved, there's a court involved, and there's two parents like willing to be involved. And one of the things that I feel like where children end up falling in the cracks, or they end up being judged, or they end up being placed in a box because they're missing a certain portion of their emotional stability, is the parents who don't have the other option. Like, there is absolutely no other option for them.
Let me give you an example. I'm here in Denver, Colorado. Both of my kids reside in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean that I'm not doing my part of my job because I'm not fostering my kids, because I'm not there in physical being every day or whenever I have the opportunities? No. What it says, what I'm saying is, fathers need to take more responsibility, and they need to adapt to any situation.
And
I talk to
agree.
my kids on a daily basis.
Right.
When I get with my kids, I'm not there to just show them what you're doing wrong. I'm there to tell you what you're doing right.
Now, if you had to write down on a piece of paper, okay, the full embodiment of what a father should be as a whole, like that provider, friend, disciplinarian, like, how would you describe that person?
You just answered that question for
Okay.
me. but it's a combination of all of those things. And let me just tell you this, if I can get fathers to do this.
Okay.
Okay? Let's take something that you do very well and you always give 100%. I need that same level of playing field to be when you're fostering and raising a kid. I need it to be at that same one. I can't have this influctuation.
Right.
Okay, I'm good at what I do, and let me just tell you, fathers, you don't have to wear a tie in order to be successful.
That's right.
Okay?
That's right.
You're successful in anything and everything that you do. Your job is just as important as my job.
Yes.
And you know what? When you look at the end of the day, the most important job, if you have kids, is to make sure that you are putting them in the right situations and fostering that kid to be successful.
This is hard to wrap up because it's like we've hit the tip of the iceberg.
Fathers,
Yes.
this is what I want to tell you, okay? And this is one thing that I wanted to tell my father. My father's no longer here on this earth. But I want to say this, and I want every child to be able to look in their father's face and say, I never would have made it, or I never could have made it without you.
Yes.
Well, there you have it. Fathers, I would say get in a position to where your children can say that to you. There are far too many children who don't even have a number to call to give that heartfelt affirmation. So, fathers, find your children, find a way to love them. This is Real Talk Colorado, and thank you at home for listening. Thank you for just being a part of the show. I'm your host, Amber Levy, and Real Talk Colorado is a place where people like you can tell your story.